What it do, what it do. This is the Brothers on Books podcast, where we find great books that will give you real value and actionable steps and have fun in the process. Please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you'd like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to this would be greatly appreciated. And lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. For the original episodes, the OGs, please visit brothersonbooks.com. And please see the affiliate links below for 20% off your Encha Matcha needs and 10% off New Recover, where you can find cold plunges and saunas that Al likes to use. Allie Bear, how is it going? And well, I'm Jack Allweil, and this is my brother Alex Allweil. Yeah, it's a little early. I'm tripping a little.
You're tripping a little. It's earlier for me. Yeah, I'm doing well, Jack. It is early. I am tired. I feel like we've both been having some sleeping issues lately. Sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause
Puppy routine, and yeah, what about for you?
I woke up to I just more or less, it seems like I get up at about 4 a.m. every day now and just kind of lie in my bed for an hour and try and go back to sleep. But I woke up to a text from you for about 3 a.m. So I don't know what you were doing, but
Yeah, I couldn't sleep. I got up at like 2, listened to some of that podcast that you recommended me, that Trigonometry. I really like that podcast, by the way. And
the Constantine Kissin.
yeah, I really
Yeah,
like that
that's good.
podcast.
That's good. Yeah.
So I was listening to that a little bit, and then just figured I'd go to the gym before I would need to take the puppy out. So just ended up going to the gym and knocked that out, and trying to be a productive person.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that because I actually asked to have this recording shifted back 30 minutes, and I was doing that so I could get to the gym before work. Uh,
Gotcha.
we have one of the few times I have all day training today from essentially nine
Okay.
to five. So I
Okay.
figure there's really no point for me. Figure if we end at like 7 my time, I can be to the gym and then be at work by 9. No reason to get in before that.
Yeah.
I guess there would be a reason, but I just don't, I don't want to
Yeah.
do a whole lot of work before all these meetings.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. So, Allie Bear, what book are we reading today?
We are doing the Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman.
And what
Uh,
caused you to pick this book?
Honestly, huh, I think when I was picking this, I was struggling to do my taxes, and which I had just asked for an extension and had still not done. But
Hmm.
I just figured I could use some help. Maybe if I had some like intense like finance or accounting classes or something that could maybe make things on that side of some of my rentals a little easier, uh, it would be useful. So this was solely a selfish pick of something that I thought would help me in my personal life, as well as, just that. Like maybe I thought maybe it would give us ideas of like how to monetize uh, some of our material better.
Yeah,
So that's why I
absolutely.
picked it. That's why I picked it. This was an odd one for me. Full disclosure, I couldn't finish it.
Hmm.
Every time I picked it up to read it, I enjoyed what I was reading, and it seemed like easy to read through. But the material itself, like
It's
it didn't like
mhm.
call to me. I wasn't like, yo, I gotta go pick this book up and just
Mhm.
run through it.
No,
Uh,
I agree. I agree. And I think in the early part of the book, he even says, like, not all books are meant to be read from start to finish. And I think when he prefaced that, I almost didn't engage as much with certain topics I wasn't interested in, like more so than I would normally.
yeah,
And I think it is a great reference book, and it's something you should keep, like, I think, next to your computer. And like, if you're struggling on an idea, you can, swing over to this topic. And what I thought Josh Kaufman did extremely well was he must have gone through so much material, because basically this book is an aggregator. Like, he has spent the time going through all this material and the different aspects of business, and then tells you, like, if you are interested in learning more of this topic, well, here are the basics. But if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, like, these other books might be good for you.
Yeah, I agree. He really like breaks down. I mean, each chapter is more or less, I guess, like a full like a basic intro into the class you would take in an MBA, right? Like, yeah, marketing, sales, finance.
Yeah, I
Uh,
would I would say the first half was more like, I would say, traditional, kind of like the calculus of business, if you want to call it that, like more of like the methods of business, whereas the second half I felt was more like soft skills, like understanding yourself, understanding how to work with others,
yeah,
trying to
manage
find your
like
core. I mean, and it's also like understanding biases. Like, he goes through different biases, and just understanding human nature helps with business in general. But the second half seemed more like personal.
yeah, like management skills.
Yeah, and also like why you're trying to achieve a certain goal, and what, just the difference between like goals, habits, states of mind. And that was a lot of stuff we talked about in Atomic Habits. So I saw a lot of like overlap with a lot of books we've read in the past.
I felt when I was going through it, I felt like I was reading a lot of 4 Hour Work Week. I don't know if you felt
That
that.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned that. There's definitely some of that.
Yeah,
Um,
like how to like I'm forgetting the term of like the shadow marketing, like just setting up the initial offer and see how many people will actually buy.
mhm,
Um, Same thing in the 4 Hour Work Week. Yeah, the soft
yeah.
skills, I feel like that's a I talk about that with one of my coworkers a lot about the necessity for people to have soft skills that I often feel I don't know how this was. Well, when you were working, I always felt like this was an issue that I've seen that the people that get promoted into management positions are often very good technically, but they often lack some of the interpersonal and just, management skills that make good managers. I don't know if you've witnessed that in your career. I noticed it. I felt like it was abundant in academia because
Mhm,
the people that become professors are often essentially the not necessarily the smartest, but they're the maybe the technically most skilled, smartest, a lot of times most ego driven, at least in the hard sciences, to get to these like high prestigious positions. But then when they actually have to, run a lab or organize a lab, they struggle because there's so much more to it than just, doing science.
mhm,
You have to deal with students, you have to, essentially run a small business, dealing
mhm.
with ordering, buying, and then what you're actually producing. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've witnessed that. Do you feel like you've seen that in your career as well?
I mean, I think there's a lot of times where if you excel at a job, whatever the next level is, they kind of assume that you will excel at this next level, and that you might like it as much. But I mean, people are sometimes frank. Like, I kind of like where I am. I think my skills are good, and I kind of just want to keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, I see. But I guess on the flip side, like, how would you go about screening a person that might be good at that if they're coming like from just a different field? Or and do you think they would have a harder time transitioning? Or do you, yeah, I guess what would the alternative maybe be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the emphasis would have to be on you need to have an emphasis on developing management skills.
Hmm.
Uh, and yet again, I feel like I saw this. I remember my professor at one point, just sort of laughing about he was being offered like courses in management and how to run labs, and he sort of was making a statement of like, why would I do this? Like, it's a waste of time. And we're all sitting there thinking like, this would help you so much. Like if you
Hmm.
actually took the time to go through this, I feel like you just have to prioritize learning a different skill set.
Hmm.
And I do remember listening to a talk from, I think the guy was from Lilly, and he
Hmm.
essentially said that. He's like, when I got promoted to manager, I was so lost. And then I thought, well, like, when I started out my career in science, like, what did I do? I just read a ton of scientific papers and I learned. So when I became a manager, what did I do? And he said he just went and read management books and how to be an effective leader for like a year. And then
Okay.
he started to excel a lot more.
Okay.
Uh,
Guess that makes
but
sense.
right. Just prioritizing a different skill set.
Hmm.
But I guess we've sort of gone off track of I guess this book. So I guess the premise of this book is, I guess I would boil it down and do you need to actually go get an MBA? Or can you learn everything from an MBA just on your own? I guess Jack, what were your thoughts?
Are you're asking me if I think?
Yeah, I'm asking you just your general thoughts from that. I mean, that was sort of,
Um.
I feel like that's the question he's posing. Like, do you want to spend,
Yeah.
some of these MBAs cost upwards of like, 50 or 60 grand a year.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't just. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't. I guess exclude other fields. He kind of talks about how what you see, the final product, you don't see a lot of the other stuff, like the debt they've taken on, the certain hours that they put in. But from what I can tell, I mean, a lot of the MBA programs, it's more about the networking and the interview prepping and the connections that each MBA program has. And I would also say certain MBA programs are kind of geared towards, they kind of have a niche. Like, I would say certain MBAs are known for like their project management, some are known for the investment banking, some are more on the tech side. So I could see certain MBAs that have good connections. I mean, you are kind of paying for the connections and or the potential connections. So I think it could work in some cases. It really just depends on what you want to do and if you really analyze it, do you think it can really help you? The actual skills, I think you can, yeah, probably just read, but I think the MBA programs are a little bit more than just what you're like reading and learning. So it's a lot of connections and now whether that's right or not, I don't know how I feel about it, but yeah. But I think this book does a good job breaking down the different facets of business and basically just saying like go get the skills that help you in these areas of business. I mean, we can even like he breaks it down like I think it was five parts of every business. Value creation, marketing, sales, value delivery, and finance. Like those are the five areas, every business. So if you just learn skills related to those, you'll be a better employee and long term, hopefully a better business person.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to my own question, I feel like he does kind of minimize what you were saying about the networking
Hmm.
because he's saying like, yeah, these skills aren't hard necessarily to learn. And the thing that was confusing or surprising to me was he was saying like some of these MBA classes, he made it sound like they almost teach like outdated material.
Hmm.
Like all the businesses they look at, to me, it sort of sounded like he was saying that they're looking at like, you know, 19th century like train companies or like all only manufacturing companies. So it's like missing a massive part of today's
Oh, you're
economy.
saying, so you're saying there's not enough like kind of tech or modern types of businesses and how they
That,
operate or.
that was how I felt like he presented it in the book. I
Mhm.
have no idea how that's true.
And I'd also be curious because he went to Harvard Business School. And so this was the second time I've read this. Actually, the first time I read this was in Nashville, visiting you. But I think he talks about in the very beginning, more of his background, I want to say. Um, and I'd be curious if he were to break down how much the connections from Harvard helped, if he could try to parse that out with this book. Because he never really went on to get a normal 9 to 5 after the program, I believe. I think he worked at Procter and Gamble before getting the MBA, but I don't think he worked really like a standard job after the MBA program.
Yeah, so like I felt like it was the main thing that I felt like he was saying was if you want to be one of those guys that's like a top tier consultant or at some type of like top tier hedge fund, the takeaway from me was you need to go get an MBA just for the connections. Like so
Hmm.
because he even at one point says it that these top tier like consulting firms and hedge funds, they essentially only hire out of MBAs
Hmm.
because for the recruiting the hiring managers, it more or less removes responsibility from them
Hmm.
because the MBAs are very selective. So you get kind of a screening that, you know, if someone went to Harvard MBA, they at some point must have been like very good at whatever they were doing to get in. So
Hmm.
they'll probably still be very good. And then if you hire them and they don't work out, you can just say, well, they had a Harvard MBA. Like, you know,
Hmm.
who could have known that they wouldn't have worked out? I
Yeah,
think
I
he
mean it's
does.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, he does an analysis in the book where I think he shows that the ROI after 10 years of having an MBA is like negative like $50,000 or something. I'm not, do you remember that?
I do not remember that one.
Okay.
That
I
would
don't
not.
know the exact dollar amount. I don't know if it's necessarily correct, but it would be interesting if you looked at like the 20-year ROI of like what, you know,
Hmm.
like how you would do. I don't know. It just
Hmm.
seems like if you're only saying the Fortune 500 companies more or less only recruit out of like top MBA programs, I think it's somewhat demeaning to be like, yeah, you shouldn't do this because you can just learn the material
Hmm.
on your own. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, in my view, if you get an MBA, it might be perhaps the surest way to make a very good salary, but you're never going to make like I don't care. I don't really care, who you are, what job you have. If you're working for someone, you're kind of capped. But I think maybe like actually running your own business. I mean, you don't need to rely on getting into one of these roles. So I guess from that perspective, just yeah, read all these books he's mentioning and study all this stuff and get good at these skills and you'll be well off. I mean it's not just MBAs. I mean certain law firms only Harvard or hire at certain, law schools and um I mean, probably similar with doctors, I would imagine. Um, but I feel like
I
some of the Ivy League schools are kind of getting tainted.
right
Um,
now,
yeah, well, just in general,
yeah.
like a lot of the, law schools, I've heard it in law schools mostly that the practical know-how is not that high. Like their book knowledge is high coming out, but they really don't know a lot of the day to day.
Well, I feel like that's true of I mean, I feel like Dad said that like going
Hmm.
back years ago. If you listen to him talk, he was like, you know, law school teaches you the law. You like learn the practical day-to-day aspects of being a lawyer once you get hired.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's kind of been true for a while.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, back to your point, like I feel like there, like being a lawyer, yeah, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of professions where you could probably just go learn the material and take uh some like maybe certification exam. I think actually being a lawyer is like that. I don't think you actually, I don't know now
I mean,
at
Dad has
what,
said he didn't think he needed law school to pass the bar. He could have passed it if he just studied for a few months, I think he said.
right.
He has said
Yeah.
that.
But I think now you do have to go to law school.
Oh, okay.
At one point, I think you just had to pass the bar. But
Hmm.
there's some professions where I think like school is obviously very important. Like, I think going to medical school is probably very important.
Hmm.
I mean, my point is like someone could go read a chemistry book and they could learn a lot of chemistry, but it'd
Hmm.
sort of be the same thing. But then you put them in lab and things have a way of going south if you don't have proper training.
Hmm.
Uh, so I mean, I feel like him just being like, yeah, just here are books, just go learn all this stuff. Sometimes it is good to have some direction.
Hmm.
With that said, more or less everyone that I'm like relatively close with that has gotten an MBA has said it's been the easiest academics that they've had in all of their
I
studying.
mean, I remember at U of M, I was playing soccer with some of these guys. Guess what how they referred to their MBA?
Networking class or bar class.
Masters of Booze and Alcohol.
Yeah.
Because they were like schmoozing like every night of the week at different bars and breweries around Ann Arbor.
It was
That's how he phrased it. He then went on to work for Kraft, at least the guy I was closest with.
I had a friend who was at Vandy's law school and
Uh-huh.
yeah, the same thing. We would play soccer together and every Thursday night he would leave to go to bar review. And I remember one day I go, Neil, like, when are you taking the bar? Like, I mean, you've been studying for like months. And he goes, what do you mean studying? I go, you're every Thursday you leave our game to go to bar review. He's like, dude, we're reviewing different bars of Nashville. I'm not studying for anything.
What a name. What a name.
I was
Uh,
like, oh my God.
uh, well, I thought we could kind of like walk through, I don't know, like just in terms, just to give people like a sense of, I mean, I liked how he broke down like the different types of products or services one could provide. And I kind of just tried to view it in terms of us. I mean, I looked at it in terms of land flipping too, but since that's what I do, but like our YouTube channel or our podcast, it's kind of he kind of calls it audience aggregation. Um, I kind of thought that was like I was trying to like use that as like my compass when I was reading that. Um, and he kind of breaks it down into, you identify a group of people with common characteristics or interests, and then you create and maintain a way of attracting their attention, and then you find third parties who are interested in tapping into that audience. So I was trying to think, Al, who do you think our audience actually is? And whose
Uh,
group who's what group are we getting their attention?
I don't really know if we're getting anyone's attention. I would guess our audience is men between the ages of 20 and 35.
Okay,
Uh,
I would guess that's probably, yeah. I mean that definitely more towards the male. Yeah.
if you want, I don't know if I could break it down racially. I don't know if it would really matter. But I would guess our audience is primarily men between the ages of 20 and 30, maybe 20 and 40. I don't know, 20,
Mhm.
that age range.
And then
Those are
like
just,
what other companies would you think might be interested in tapping into those demographics?
oh, I mean, a lot. Like other companies?
Yeah, like I'm just like, brainstorming, trying to use this book to like brainstorm kind
Any type of, I would guess, sports company, sports league, gambling, uh, you
of. Okay,
know,
that's an interesting one. Gambling. Okay.
like I
Yeah, that's
mean,
probably a good one though.
alcohol companies probably would be pretty big in that. I mean,
Okay.
today, like, I mean, so many of my Nashville friends smoke. So like,
Mm-hmm.
these new weed companies.
Ah, okay.
Um, who else? I mean,
Um,
just generic, like probably meal prepping things to make your lives easier if you're busy. Um,
okay, those are interesting. I'm writing these down because at some point we'll I mean
Athletic wear.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, New Recover. I mean, we have them as
Right.
an affiliate. There you go. Okay, cool. I mean, the things. Okay, so those are cool. That's good. I mean, the one thing in terms of product that he mentioned that I kind of thought might be so like for land flipping, that would fall into, I guess, this resale bucket. Like you're just buying something and then you're reselling it.
Jack, what page are you
Um,
on?
I'm not really on a page, but I think the standard here, let me look. The standard forms of value are on page 49.
Okay.
Um, So like yeah, like land flipping, it could be I kind of have like a resale component. So you acquire an asset from a wholesaler, then sell that asset to a retail buyer at a higher price. I mean, the thing is a lot of times I'm acquiring from like a distressed, owner and then selling it to another investor. But and then there's also the loan component where you're lending a certain amount of money. And I guess that's part of the land flipping because I sell a lot of parcels on terms.
Well,
So they're paying.
you also
Mhm.
loan out, you also do loan money, correct? Don't you do Noggle's money lending thing?
I haven't done anything through Private Money Club quite yet. Um, but I do use the whole life policies to lend to,
I guess yourself.
the businesses. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was I like this option component. You offer the ability to take a predefined action for a fixed period of time in exchange for a fee. And that's like options. Like stock options, but it could also be anything really. So I was kind of kicking around maybe having some sort of, I don't know, payment that if a person bought from me for like an extra like 3-5%, I would provide like a discount for a futures, I don't know, purchase in this parcel range. I was just kicking ideas around because that could be good, like to lock in certain prices over a period of time. So I thought that was kind of cool. Um, I don't know. I,
Yeah,
I
sure.
definitely had more notes on the second half, I gotta say. Well, actually, I mean, I guess one thing on the marketing part is I kind of like the quote, the cardinal marketing sin is being boring. And I was
Yes, sir.
kind of
So I
thinking
would
we, go ahead.
I was that really stuck out to me because I mom just sent me back the first draft of like the book that I was trying to write.
Uh-huh.
And the thing that always, I mean, I feel like one of the things that we really struggle with is marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking like, I was thinking back, I don't remember if it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad or whatever book where this like incredible writer is talking to Kiyosaki and he tells her to take a marketing and sales class. And the woman like responds with like, that's like so beneath me. And then he points out that he's not the best author, he's the best selling author. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like if people don't know you're there, they don't know that they want
Mm-hmm.
what you have.
And I
Just
think one
like,
thing that he points out, like in terms of like the selling and marketing, is that they're not the same. I think that is something I didn't really appreciate for a long time. But like marketing is just getting noticed. That's what marketing is. Like you're just trying to get noticed. The selling part is about converting those people
yeah, right.
into like closing the deal, basically. So they are different like wheelhouses. And I'm starting to appreciate that a little more with the land flipping. Um, just
But
like with
like,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, how would you, how would you respond to like I think the Trader Joe's like model where they don't spend anything on marketing. It's all just, I think it's Trader Joe's. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all,
right.
they don't,
Or
right. It's all
no
just essentially,
advertising.
so like all essentially just like word of mouth, and they just rely heavily on having a quality, I guess, service or
Uh-huh.
product.
Well, I think
How
I
do
would
you,
respond, well, marketing is about getting noticed. So if you have a different type of product, that kind of is some marketing. And then you do have word, because they have the most workers per square foot, I know. They have, by and large, smaller stores than most grocery stores. They have very unique offerings, a lot of
food?
like private label stuff where they get made for them. Um, and yeah, I mean, if you ever go into a Trader Joe's, you're almost always getting asked, like, can I help you? Or, and then if you're like standing in line, like you oftentimes will have a worker come over and say, oh, I can take you over here because they have so many workers. It's so different. And there's no sales. That's another thing I like about Trader Joe's actually.
That
And
there are
that
no
and
sales.
there's no sales. It's all the price that price is the price, and I kind of like that because I think sometimes when you see the sales at other places, sometimes there's like a part of me that's like, is this really a sale or are they just saying it's marked down to get me to buy it? So I kind of like that. I don't have to think like that at Trader Joe's. I don't know if other people think that way. But I
Yeah,
notice, yeah.
the cynic in me sometimes thinks that people raise their prices just so they can knock them down.
hmm and then another part about like in terms of marketing and like with like advertising, they had a really good quote in this book that advertising is the tax you pay for being unremarkable. So if you are unremarkable, you need to like pay to disperse your message, even more so than if you had a organically good product. Because if you are remarkable, like I would say Trader Joe's is remarkable, you have word of mouth more so than if you have an unremarkable product. And
No,
that
that's a good point.
advertisement is kind of like a tax you have to pay for being unremarkable.
I
So
think
I,
that's
I
a good
kind
point.
I kind of like that. But in terms of like our podcast, like in terms of marketing, I was thinking we should do like more like like YouTube shorts, like with you playing pickleball, or like I don't know, just ways to get noticed. Like we can do all sorts of videos. They don't have to be exactly about books. It's just and I think in that one, I can't remember the book, but um there was a restaurant I think called Green Burrito, and
That was a 4 hour work week.
was it really?
Yeah.
Okay, so they made
Jingle, the jingle.
yeah, a radio jingle where it's like, Green Burrito is a place. And it was like just so people would know that it was there. So I don't know, it's just kind of funny and
So
just a
it was terrible, wasn't it? Wasn't that the joke? Like the
yeah, yeah. I mean
food was absolutely awful.
yeah. I think they just wanted it to be like a late night hangout spot basically with mediocre food. So um Um, I don't know. Anything else on?
I mean, I was gonna say going back to the now I can't find it. I had the page. The five parts of every business.
Yep.
Uh, creates and delivers something of value other people want or need, price they're willing to pay, in a way that satisfies the customer's needs and expectations, so that business brings in enough profit to make it worthwhile for the owners. I guess at that point, I feel like we have created and delivered something of value.
Mm-hmm.
I think people do want and need what we have to say. Uh, I guess how do you think we should go about uh, maybe monetizing this better?
Mm-hmm. Uh, it's kind of interesting. I guess just from looking at what other podcasts do, I would say that, you could have like a get together, like a powwow. Like I don't know if you listen to George Gammon, he's got, Rebel Capitalist Live, get your tickets. We're having great talks. And but I've also heard, we're just having like we're selling tickets and we're gonna hang out and maybe we'll discuss a book or something in person, privately, and you get access to these people or some like get together. So I could see doing some sort of like weekend somewhere and doing something like that. But I think for us, it's probably going to be really dialing in on our audience and then selling ads.
I mean, in the beginning, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
still
Yeah,
growing.
yeah. Or if, if we end up making books or making a compilation of things that we could then sell, who knows? Maybe we could put what we've learned, just like Josh Kaufman did from all the books we've read, into a book and call it, something, and be our own aggregator and sell
Good
books.
point. Yeah. You know, we also do
Good.
we do merchandising now. I don't know if you know that.
It's true. You talking the shirt?
I'm talking to the shirt, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. I mean, that'd be another way. I mean, we're still waiting on our jerseys, I guess. Um, so yeah. Any other things you want to bring up about like business specific topics, I guess, before we go? There was like one or two things I wanted to talk about in the like kind of more personal type things.
Why don't you just go then? I think
Okay, so there's in the second half of the book, he really does break down a lot of biases we have. But the one thing or a couple things stood out. There was this exercise to do, he calls the five whys. Um, and basically I think the example, I'm not looking at it right now, so don't quote me, but like the guy originally said, like, I want to be a millionaire. So when you're going after like some sort of level or you view this as your goal, the practice is to ask yourself, why do I want that? And it might be there might be a reason, and then you would then ask yourself, well, why do I want that? And then you ask yourself five times, and then hopefully by the end, it's just like, because I want that. And I think the example he gave was, I want to be a millionaire. And then when he drilled down, he basically discovered he just wants to feel free. That's that's really the underlying feeling that he's after. He wants to feel free. It's not so much that he actually wants to be a millionaire. He wants to feel free. And then there's the exercise, well, how do I get there? So how can you feel more free? And I think some of the examples they gave were like cutting off negative relationships, perhaps even though you might not be making as much, maybe trying to start your own business so you free up more of your schedule. Um, and then you can like brainstorm, well, how do I actually feel more free without necessarily being a millionaire? Because that's not really what I'm after. I'm after feeling more free. So I did this with um, I keep saying I want to be fluent in German, and I
okay.
haven't really. I'm not there, even not even close to there. So I'm trying to understand why I'm not getting there and what that might be. So I basically said, okay, so why do I want to be fluent in German? And I said, because
Well,
I
can I
don't
guess?
want. Sure, you can guess.
So I can know what my wife is saying about me behind my back.
That's almost exactly what I wrote. I said because I won't have a kid or kids and wife talking behind my back. So then I said, okay, so why don't you want them talking behind your back? And I said I don't want to feel alone, because it is kind of a lonely feeling when, and I've spent time in
Yeah.
Vienna when everyone is talking German. I have zero idea, and I feel alone. It's like very isolating. Um, and so then I asked, okay, so why don't I want to feel alone? Well, I want to feel included. And so that's basically what I like came upon. I guess really what I'm after is I want to feel included. But I guess the I don't know, the catch 22 in this case is that, well, to feel included, I need to learn German. Or that is in large part, like, especially when I'm in Vienna, I feel like that is it's kind of like, well, I need to learn German. And
I mean,
but
the flip side
Uh-huh.
could be that you could go full American and, never go back to Austria and preclude your future children from learning German. And then,
I guess that is so when I listed out the five houses, I guess maybe I should have included that. Just never go back to a German speaking place, and I won't have to
you won't
feel
have this
isolated
feeling,
like that.
right?
So then I'll always feel included. But so I did write, learn the languages and the culture. I thought to feel included, it's good to invite people to do things because then they'll invite you to do things.
True. True.
So I wrote that down, and then make others feel included. Basically, be generous and participate in groups. Um, so I guess those are things that I could do. And then that combined, and they gave a quote by, I think it was the founder of IKEA that was talking about typically in your meetings that you set at work, a lot of times they're in like half-hour blocks or hour blocks. And he was saying like that's incredibly inefficient, and a lot of times it's just wasted time. So the founder of IKEA was breaking his day into like 10-minute intervals. And basically the goal of his day is to waste as few of those 10-minute intervals as possible. So then I thought, okay, well, if I did just 10 minutes of German a day, that is like 60 hours a year that I would have put towards German, which is not an insignificant amount of time. So I think I might try to get back in the habit of doing that. And I did start looking into tutors again, I gotta say, classes, but we'll see.
Okay.
Um, Trying to think, but that's basically what I had. I don't know. Does anything come to mind of like thing you might want to analyze and
I mean, definitely, I feel like I need to go and I would like to go and read some of these things on systems. I did
Mhm.
not get to that, and like maybe look at how I could apply that to some of these, rentals that I have that I feel like, my one house I feel like has really become, oh, I kind of want to get out of it. So I'm like
Mhm.
thinking about, how either I could improve it or I could essentially put it into something better. I think, yeah, my
Mhm.
first house I kept doesn't really cash flow that well, and I kept because essentially just sentimental value. So emotional. And
Okay.
emotions can get in the way of things, I guess.
Okay.
But I think it's kind of I'm getting tired of dealing with this management company because yeah, I feel like they're dishonest and I feel like the systems in place are benefit them and not really me. So
Mhm.
looking
So,
to
mhm.
no, go ahead.
So I was gonna say like if you were to sell, do you have any idea? It just made me think because he also talked about this like in investing in yourself. Like, would there be some money that you would put towards yourself if you were to sell?
Uh towards myself. My plan was to put it towards like a vacation rental.
Ah, okay.
Uh,
Okay. That's cool.
but I mean, like, I don't know. Some of the things like where I live, you can get pretty nice apartment complexes, between 8 and like 12 units for not much more than what I could sell my house for, my
Wow.
Nashville house. Like, I saw an 8 unit apartment complex for like 500 grand that looked pretty nice. So, uh, but then it just becomes a whole different thing. Like then that's borderline becoming, that's becoming a lot of work.
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
then at least I'm probably dealing with a management company that's local where I can go and check on the property to make sure that, what they're saying is true.
Hmm.
But But yeah, no, I mean, you gave me the idea probably about a year ago. If I just sold everything, could I just go like teach pickleball and like live on the beach? And, I probably at this point could do that. So
Mhm.
maybe that would make me feel a little more free. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, because I like that he talked about he called it like his research and development like budget. And he was pointing out, companies have huge R&D budgets where they're just tinkering, trying to experiment to find new ideas and new products. And he was saying that he actually thinks that your research and development part should be more important than your savings rate. I thought that was interesting, and I could see people pushing back on that, but I kind of I liked his message there that yeah, the money that goes towards you in tinkering is probably the best return of anything you really could put your money into. So I liked that message. Um, I don't know if do you have any thoughts on that one or not really.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely I mean, I was having sort of it was sort of weird. Like it's sort of weird you say that because I was at a tournament this weekend and the dude that I play with, he like trains this, I think he's 16-year-old kid now.
Hmm.
And the 16-year-old kid more or less like borderline like lives with him now.
Okay.
But so the 16-year-old kid was, at this tournament with us, he's eating dinner with us. And I feel like kids can put things in terms that I mean, I still feel like, I don't know, I still feel young. I don't know if you still feel like, I still feel like I'm 18. But listening to this kid, like we were just talking about careers, and this kid's like, how could anyone ever do something that they're not passionate about, or like, why would you ever allow yourself to go take a job that you don't love? And I'm like trying to explain to this kid, like, do you think like accountants like love their job? Do you think accountants wake up jazzed to go do someone's taxes?
Hmm.
I, and he's
I
like,
mean, I
well,
think some are.
some do, but most
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't think most accountants wake up jazzed to go do other people's taxes. I think they do it because it's a relatively good paying job. It affords them, a nice life where they can kind of do what they want outside of working hours. And in explaining this to I don't know how old he is, 15 or 16, explain this to a 16-year-old, it wasn't coming across. Like
Hmm.
I don't
What
know.
was does he want to be a pro pickleball player? Is that kind of
Yeah, he wants to be a pro pickleball
so?
player.
So that's his plan.
That's his point, right? And then I asked him, well, like, I don't know, like, if that doesn't pan out, what would you do? He's like, I'd probably just go into real estate. I'd go like buy and flip houses and do Airbnbs. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, they're very. He's like, yeah, I started like thinking about what I would want to do as a career when I was like 13 or 14, and I'm like, okay, there are very few kids that are thinking like that, let
Uh-huh.
alone with you know you say like the real estate stuff sounds so obvious to you because your parents kind of do it and you're surrounded in this community that you spend all of your time in, being the pickleball community. You're
Hmm.
surrounded by more or less incredibly successful people that do that. If you're not surrounded by that, you're probably not going to have those thoughts. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I guess when I was young, I always just kind of thought I'd go to med school and become a doctor. Like that was really, I don't know. That's just really what I always, probably up until the point when I went to grad school, that's just what I thought I would do.
Hmm.
That was really the only option I ever really even contemplated. I don't know about you. Like, what did,
I mean, I also thought I would maybe be a doctor until I took that human physiology class in high school and I couldn't stand the sight of blood. And I'm like, I don't know if this is the profession for
for
me.
me, yeah.
Um,
But okay, sorry, I sort of got sidetracked. The point of
mhm.
that is he at one point said, why don't you just like take a day and figure out what you want to do? I'm like, well, Jesus, if I could figure out like truly what I want to do in a day, yeah. So back to your point about tinkering and investing in yourself, like I do think that is very beneficial. I think it is
Mhm.
good to sort of look in to figure out what you want.
Mhm.
But it's hard. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I think I actually last year I think I did a pretty good job of that. But the stuff that I put money into it, it really hasn't paid off yet. So like I put a lot of money into this estimating rehab costs class, which I like the knowledge and I like the people I met, but I haven't done a flip yet really or a rehab. So I haven't really used much of that. I did go see a couple houses and use the rubric they gave us, but so I have taken some action. It just hasn't come to fruition. And then I took this Forex class, which in retrospect, I mean, I had a great time in the class and I like doing it, but I still have my like same like $50 in my account that I've been trading back and forth because I'm not comfortable putting more in until I can see that what I'm doing is actually working. Um, but yeah, that was and then I did sign up for straw bale. I did one design workshop and the hands-on workshop that I signed up for in August unfortunately got canceled, but I feel like I naturally was, and we all, I mean, both of us spend a lot of money on books. Well, I mean, a good more than most people spend. Um, so that could be like, research and development because we're basically expanding our knowledge base.
I
Um,
actually more or less get all my books for free using Amazon points.
really,
Yeah, I have an Amazon credit card.
really,
I
dang,
mean,
okay, maybe I
it
should look
just
into
it
that.
just goes to show that I spend a lot of money on my day to day, and then I have
Uh-huh.
all these points that I can then use to buy books off of Amazon.
Okay. Well, there you go. Maybe that's who we need to be talking about in our audience aggregation.
So it's not necessarily like because you probably get points on other things. So
That's true.
your points just go to something else. Like
Yeah, yeah.
my points more or less just go to buying the books for this podcast.
Hmm.
And recently I furnished my one of my spare bedrooms, so I bought a bed and a mattress for my new roommate.
Okay. Cool. I'm just looking through the end part of my, I mean, the last part, I mean, he talks about the different types of biases. We got, confirmation bias. That's people's general tendency to pay attention to information that supports their view. I guess that's important to know that you typically have that tendency. And if you go on like X, there's a lot of like echo chambers, and you end up talking to people that a lot of times have your same view, and then it's just a waste of time most of the I mean, like,
I was gonna say that has become progressively worse.
yeah.
Um,
And then I thought the hindsight bias, tendency to blame oneself for things they should have known. That's like, hindsight's 2020 type of deal. Um, I mean, the confirmation bias came along with the quote that I absolutely love, the Mark Twain quote. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. I've always
I
loved that
think
quote. And I think
yeah,
Noggle,
Nago had it too. Yeah, we've heard
yeah,
that. We've come across that quote quite a few
yeah.
times.
So that's interesting. And then I think they brought up arrival fallacy. Um, but we had read about arrival syndrome in Becoming Your Own Banker. Now, this book didn't mention arrival syndrome. That's kind of like where you think you've like made it to the top and you don't need to keep learning. Um, but the actually is arrival fallacy when you just constantly think you have not made it. And you keep moving the goalpost. I kind of forget actually. Um, I
Talk
probably
about
shouldn't have even mentioned that one.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I don't here. Let's see if I can find it. Um, let's see if I can find it. I see hindsight bias, confirmation bias, limiting beliefs. I did want to bring that up too, but here, let's see if arrival fallacy. Everyone wants to live on top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you're climbing it. That's a quote by a journalist. The arrival fallacy is a way to recognize this pattern in shorts. Wait, sorry. Um, This is yeah, kind of like you keep moving the goalposts. Like you have one accomplishment, but it's like never enough. That's kind of it's a way to recognize it's this like, when I achieve that, they tell themselves, I'll finally feel successful and happy.
Yeah,
And the right,
that
yeah.
never happens. I can speak from personal experience on that one.
Yeah. So the fallacy is a way to recognize this pattern and circuit the dissatisfaction associated with pursuing goals. If you recognize that your business, career, and life will never be in a permanent ideal state, and there will be no end to your search for meaning and improvement, it becomes much easier to appreciate what you've achieved to date and celebrate the accomplishment of goals and milestones as they occur. So I thought that was,
Yeah, I mean
um,
that goes back to the Frankel quote that you can't search out happiness and success. You just
mhm,
have to do things, and those things that you enjoy or things that bring you that internally make you happy or internally make you feel happy, and like true happiness and success will come. But if you're
mhm,
just searching out success, like you can't make it the end product of what you're looking for, I guess.
mhm. Yeah. And I think that goes back to like goal setting, and like you should not have a result be the goal. Like you need to have the actions be the goal. Like instead of I want to lose weight or I want to lose 20 pounds, your goal needs to be I am going to go to the gym 6 days a
Days a
week,
week. Yeah.
and I'm going to count my calories and I'm going to journal what I'm actually doing and eating. Like those should be the goals, not the end result. So, um, and then the last part, I guess, I don't know. Do you have any limiting beliefs that you feel like you've gotten over, or do you feel like you still have certain things that you're like working on to try to like reverse your mind on?
Mhm. Uh, I don't know if this is in the same vein, but sometimes I still feel like I have a lack of confidence where I feel like maybe I internally think like I can't do things, like I can't
Hmm.
succeed at things. And then
Hmm.
when you just think that like you tend to prove yourself right. Like once you
Hmm.
think you can do something, you can't do it. So like a lot of
Okay.
times I catch myself telling myself like I can win, like I can do this, like I can, even though like my initial thought a lot of times is that I can't.
Hmm. Okay. Um, okay. I mean, I think we talked about this a good chunk in like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and there's been other books, but like switching like your brain from saying like that's too expensive to how can I afford
Afford
this,
it. Yeah.
like you kind of like already saying like you're there, and then kind of just, and I think they call it like mental simulation, like working backwards, and like your brain starts firing to fix a problem once you give it the end destination. I mean, I feel like I'm becoming your own banker. um I mean, I'm trying to think of specifics, but just like the idea, like I for some reason I did have a belief I should not finance a car, basically. Um, and that was kind of based that I thought the car was, the collateral, I guess. But if you had some asset like a whole life that is, uninterrupted going up, maybe borrow from that. And so it's just like, yeah, it's just like the more you read and more you get exposed to some of these limiting beliefs, or certain beliefs just get changed. Um, and I think, well, I mean, trying to think of other, I felt like before I used to optimize a lot for just money, honestly, like just looking at net worth. And more so recently, I feel like trying to prioritize like time. I don't, or like just trying to like appreciate my free time a little more.
Okay.
And I think we'll get into that with the Die with Zero book even more so. That's like another level, but okay, Al. I might have rambled for that
No,
last part. Don't
if
really.
anything, I'm usually the one doing the rambling.
Yeah. So, ending thoughts? Or you want to take
Uh,
us out?
I'll take us out.
Okay.
Please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you'd like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to would be greatly appreciated. Lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. I'm Alex Otwell, and with me as always is my brother Jack. Jack, as always, it's been a pleasure. I feel like it was a pretty good
Pleasure.
episode. And what book are we doing next?
We are reading one of your picks. Looks like Authentic
Authentic
Happiness.
Happiness by Martin Siegelman,
Yeah.
the main man.
So, using the new positive psychology to realize your potential for lasting fulfillment.
So yeah, this
And
was
and, and
a
we've just gotten word that Miss Sharon Applebaum will be on another episode this season, but we're not going to say which one, so stay tuned.
another Sharon is coming back. There you go. All right, Jack down.
Great. Okay.
All right,
Take it easy.
bye.